God moments, they're everywhere, even all around the world.
And today we want to talk to you about dreaming and changed perspectives and resilience.
That's our topic on this episode of the Educators Among Us podcast.
Welcome to the Educators Among Us podcast, where we share motivational messages and inspiring stories for and about educators. Your host, Scott Barron, is author of the critically acclaimed book, Love 'Em and Lead 'Em, and provides powerful insights and wisdom for those who heed the call to teach, coach, lead, and serve at all levels of education.
This is Scott Barron and
Tammy Barron.
Yep, we're a team, and today we're sharing with you some perspectives. We've had some great adventures over the last few weeks. For me, it has been really some of the most intense, both travel, but also learning and sharing and engaging. And we've had a chance to also have some have an addition to the family, and we've had some changes in our school growth team, and so it's been a lot.
A lot of upheaval.
Yeah,
a lot of upheaval. A lot of unwarranted fear.
Interesting.
Yeah,
unwarranted
fears that.
Most of them are sometimes,
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing how if you're not sticking to living in the present and you're thinking too much about the future or thinking too much about the past, you can definitely get consumed with fears that are totally unfounded.
Yeah, and those fears often can be, as I shared in a recent weekly encouragement, they can be an abuse of our imagination, things that were given to us to create and to imagine what could be and to enhance. We turn into sometimes a weapon against ourselves, and those fears can sometimes paralyze. So we want to share with you just some of the adventures, and that's the joy. This is very informal. We don't have a long, sometimes we have some prepared notes that we're doing. We don't have those this time.
We're just going to talk about
life, just us, right?
Life, living, and God.
Yeah,
God moments and those, that we've had.
Yeah, particularly those God moments, because of course they're everywhere, and what we recognize is that if we're open to them,
right?
If we're not stuck in some of sometimes that fear, sometimes it's it could be an arrogance, or it can just be a distraction. Sometimes we're looking at our phones too much, we miss God moments, or we're just looking down or looking at somewhere else. But looking up, that's something that we're going to continue to emphasize even through the summer. It's going to be a big theme for us, because we know that if we continue to have that perspective, it changes everything.
It really does. We want to continually be looking for those moments of awe. I turned 67 in these last few weeks.
What?
67. And you would think, oh, well, there's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new that's going to awe me or just be something that's amazing and wonderful. But yet, if you look for that and if you expect that, you're going to find it. And it's been one of those, the last few weeks has been one of those times when I felt God so mightily. I said, okay, I can rest on this for a few years, because it has been just an amazing journey that we have had. It started in Africa for me.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fear. What I had expected to happen and I had dreaded was going and just being afraid of the journey and being afraid of the length of the travel. But it was just such an awesome time and moment, and God was so mightily there that it was, you were totally awestruck from the moment we stepped off the plane and met the people. Throughout our full journey there, we were visited and felt the presence of God mightily.
Even after a long trip to get there, it's a very long flight, but we did. We had some false expectations. I shared about that in another weekly encouragement a few weeks ago. That there's we all go into that, and sometimes we go into school.
I go into it more than he does.
Yeah, we go. I just kind of go. but there is there's sometimes a limitation on what we can do, what we can dream. And I know one of the experiences that you had there was visiting a school that was among a group of families that were pretty high poverty.
Very high
And there
poverty
was
families.
kind of a bit of a sense of risk around that too.
Well, and it was one of the things I had greatly feared. I had greatly feared being out of my comfort zone and into areas that might be dangerous. And I see danger everywhere. So it was one of those. I was like, oh no, what have I agreed to? But I agreed to go with one of the people at the conference to go visit a small school near a little shanty town.
Yep.
And she said, let me drive you by the town where the children live so that you know what you're going to see and where they've come from.
And Claudia was more like me. Right?
Claudia had no fear, none. And we were in her little car that she called Pebbles. And we were driving she was driving in that little car, and there were people approaching us on the road and on the street. And if you stopped at a stoplight, they were, coming to the window. And I was like, what did I get myself into? And I said, this is exactly what I said I was not going to do. But I wasn't prepared for how God showed me, I'm with you. I'm taking care of you. I am
ahead of you.
I'm ahead of you. And that's what we realized when we got off the plane. I thought how really, how obnoxious, it wasn't obnoxious.
Even
I'm thinking of a different word. No, obnoxious of me to think arrogancy, to think that I was bringing God and God had to follow me, when what I saw and realized was God was more mightily present there than in a lot of places that I am living in here. And I realized that prosperity often blinds you and is a weight that you have to put off. And it blinds you to the fact that you have need and that God provides for your needs. And we saw people who were filled with joy and in circumstances that you would not have thought would be joyful. And visiting that little school was like that. There was a cook who actually, she was my age. So I told her she was my African twin, and we bonded because she said she was cooking for all the children at the school. She lived in the little shanty town. She had actually graduated from the school. And they said that she has a saying, she's kind of the light of the school. And she has a saying that whenever they hit rough times or when they don't know where money's going to be coming from, she said, don't worry, God will provide. And I thought her joyful countenance, the way that she served was just remarkable, inspiring. And I was so thankful that I had not really overcome my fears and had gone ahead
and pushed through. Yes.
Pushed through.
Right.
I pushed through my fears
and
went ahead and went to visit the school and the people. And it was one of the greatest blessings of the whole trip.
For sure.
For me.
And we had such an opportunity to engage with the educators that were there across the southern part of the continent and to see what they were doing. And what was interesting, of course, is that the challenges that they face as school leaders and as educators is the same as we've seen in the United States and Argentina and South Korea and China and Europe and other places. So that was of course it's interesting to know that it's the same challenges everywhere.
But what also amazed me with them was their willingness to listen, their hunger for the encouragement.
Yes.
Their hunger for what we had to bring, and to see people who are hungry for not just the things of God, but are hungry for shared experiences and leadership, and not thinking, oh, we got it. Looking down at their phones or looking at their computers. They didn't do that.
They were engaged.
They were totally
intensely
engaged.
Yeah.
And we were able to worship with them every morning before the meetings would start. And it was just a powerful time to witness people who are hungry for the things of God and also hungry for knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what we were able to share at a program about, how to lead in an era that will have a significant amount of change and pressures. And, you still have to lead with a vision, and you have to have that commitment to that vision and know how to align and engage and all the other things that come with leadership. And that's been a big theme for us, and will be throughout this next year, is as we guide members of our School Growth Network through a journey together of exploring, how do we do that? How do we lead forward in ways that enables our educators to thrive, and of course provides the best environment for students as well? It's casting dreams. And that's one of the things that we emphasize as a part of our work with educators and with those involved in learning organizations, is that, listen, our job is not just to be dispensers of curriculum, right? We're not just there to kind of, learning standards are important, and so is the taught curriculum, the pieces, but it's also beyond that, right? It's about being enablers of dreams,
Exactly.
of helping them to kind of push through, as we were talking about, push through some of those fears and those constraints, and find a way. And that's what excellence does, right? Is we redefine what's possible. And having excellent schools is life-changing for communities, for students, for entire organizations.
Well, as you're talking about redefine, one of the things that really struck me was how I defined poverty and prosperity, because I had looked at South Africa as having a lot of poverty, and the U.S. is having a lot of prosperity. And when I went, I realized that no, I was the one who had more poverty than they had there. They, the definition became totally different, because it wasn't in,
they were rich.
They were rich in the spirit of God, the spirit of truth, the spirit of joy, contentment. And it may not be material things. That isn't what defines, that isn't how you define prosperity. I totally changed my viewpoints and how I viewed the country. And it made me open to, okay, I'm ready to travel again. I'm ready to travel more. And I told them, I said, I want to come back. I want to revisit here, because the peace within my soul that I found there was, and the communion with God was just overwhelming.
And that piece is what we try to share through what we do with the School Growth Network as well. Is their school leadership has a number of conflicts and constraints and pressures that are unique to the environment, the ecosystem of schools, and we get that. But and yet we're called to lead, and yet we're called to be there in those moments to overcome the challenges, to chart a path forward, and to lead in a way that people can trust, right? And that's a big part of what we try to do in the training that we do, and the other support services, the planning, right, is to help create a pathway to become enablers of dreams. And one of the experiences that we had in our travels was we were at this hotel that was just beautiful, and they had a lot of international, a lot of international people were there for. There was a marathon in town. A lot of them were runners, and I was enjoying the buffet, and they were limiting what they could eat for the buffet. But it was interesting that there was all this just food everywhere, and beautiful things that they were doing, and fruits and vegetables,
abundance,
just an abundance. Yep. And there was a woman that was standing there. There were lots of people working, but she was really kind, and she genuinely had that gift of hospitality. I mean, there's some people who ought to be at the front, and maybe others not. She had the gift. Sometimes we walk into schools, and the receptionist at the front is like, I don't know. It's not necessarily having the gift.
They're gatekeepers.
Yeah. So this person, boy, did they ever have the gift of hospitality. And so I was talking to her for a moment. I said, well, when everybody's done here, do you guys get a chance to enjoy all this and the food and all the abundance? And she looked at me, and she said, and with a very, almost a casualness, she said, oh, no, only in our dreams. And of course, I couldn't help but pause. It kind of took away my appetite, of course, was to realize, hey, you're living someone's dream in real time. That's a tough perspective. It's like understanding that when you think somebody else is in poverty, you realize that you are. It's when you're living
not recognizing
your
your blessings,
Yeah.
and taking for granted the abundance and wealth and what we have been so blessed with, and taking that for granted and not realizing that our very sustenance and breath, comes from God.
Yeah.
And our every waking moment, our heart beating, all of those things.
And it's different when you realize you're living someone else's dream, right?
It is.
That's sometimes we are caught up in a lot of the work and the stress and the duties of family and everything that comes with it. But and yet we're all, if you're watching this, I guarantee you're living someone else's dream. And it's that gives a different perspective.
It does.
It causes a pause, like it did for me in that moment, that said, hey, don't forget, embrace the moment. Don't allow yourself to get lost in all these other things that are going on, and maybe even the stresses of it, because sometimes you're living the life that you prayed for before, but certainly is someone else's dream. And we want to make sure that we sustain that perspective. Obviously, as educators, as education leaders, don't stop dreaming.
Right.
That's something that, we want to make sure that carries through in a lot of this message.
Well, and educators oftentimes are so in the present, they're so in the tyranny of the urgent and what's happening right now, that they forget to have a vision and to dream, not to look at the future with fear, but to look at it with possibility.
For sure.
What can we be? What can we achieve? How much can we grow in wisdom? How much can we grow, not just in enrollment or other things, but how can we continue to grow as people, as a person, as an organization? We need to continually be dreaming and giving, and as leaders, giving vision to those that we are leading, because they want to be able to know that you are carrying a vision, you have a vision.
Absolutely.
And that there is something that you're looking towards, a direction you're going for next year.
And a compelling vision.
Compelling
one
vision.
that has
Exactly.
energy to it. And that's where we want to be. That's where we want to go. Sometimes you have to sell it. Sometimes you have to, get people bought into that. And, but we do need to have all of our team fully committed to a single purpose forward. It can't be everybody running in their own lane with their own sort of version of that. We need to bring that together.
Right.
Like to say, we got to braid the cords, because we're a lot stronger when we're braided, when we're together, when we have a cohesiveness, we have a clarity together. That's a game changer, especially for schools and learning organizations. So
Exactly.
So just want to challenge this summer of 2026, that this becomes a summer of vision. For you and for your team, and that we begin to articulate a clarity, because one of the best ways to love and lead educators is give them something to believe in.
Exactly.
It's tangible, it's written, it's reminded, it's revisited. It becomes core to who we are. It's not something that just kind of goes into a notebook or onto a flip chart and then it goes away. It is something that we're able to describe together. We stay on message. We start that in August. By the way, it's important that gets defined, that vision gets defined before you start, whether it's August, September, whenever your starting point is, that before you get going, that is clear in writing together, and there's a unity about it.
So what we are asking you to do is to put aside your fears and to create that vision and know where you're going for next year. Know where you want to go, where you want to end, where you want to land, and go ahead and charter that course and that path.
Yep. And then script the path, right? The way, again, loving and leading educators means that not only where we ultimately want to land, but also how do we get there? What are the steps? What are the quarterly goals that we're going to set that are going to enable us to make progress and eventually get to that point? Now, there are times when we have to make adjustments, right? But that's what wisdom leads us to. It enables us to learn, to make adjustments, and continue to be the best version of us that we can be. And that's a resilience. That's how we kind of wrap up in this conversation. Is we learned a lot. We not only went to South Africa, we've been to Denver and Houston and down Atlanta, down in Florida, been to Tennessee, St. Simon's Island, working with some schools there. So it's been an intense time. And we've learned a lot, but we've also learned that we have to have our own dreams. I mean, we at our team, we're actually working this summer on our renewed strategic plan. Well, how we're going to reach out better, how we're going to be using artificial intelligence and data and other tools, and how we're helping our members do the same thing. It's an exciting challenge, but we're going to keep dreaming too. And we thank you for dreaming with us and for accepting that challenge, for being educators, for being leaders of educators as well. You make a difference in a lot of people's lives, some that you'll know here, some that you will not know until eternity. But your influence makes an impact in the lives of so many of students, of educators, of families, and we're grateful for you. We're grateful that you're in the mix, that you're in there fighting forward, that you're bringing that vision, that you're making a difference and building that resilience into your team. Thank you for caring and for being a part of that. We're excited. We've had a new addition to our family.
We have. We've got
so
a new baby.
Got Roz has joined the team, and so now we get to love on her some. But we've got a lot of exciting days ahead. We're praying for you and with you, and we're excited to be a part of your journey. Thanks for taking it with us, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Love them and lead them.
Thank you for joining us for the Educators Among Us podcast and for your courageous commitment to this noble calling. We get you and the challenges of this work. To stay connected with this community, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and weekly encouragement at educatorsamongus.com.